Welcome to the Spunky Spirit Podcast. I'm your host, psychic medium Carrie Muggs. This is where we learn all things spirit, everything from spiritual gifts, awakenings, ghosts, aliens, and starseeds. Nothing is untouchable, but always fun and spunky. I am honored to be on this spiritual journey with you, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Hello, Spunksters. So, welcome back. I missed last week, and you're going to find out why if you don't know already. So, in this podcast, honestly, you guys, this one might be a short one, just because I want to be there, and I want to show up, and I want to be consistent, but at the same time, things happen in my life sometimes, too, and things just, and I need to learn to batch these things and make a whole bunch, but then I just don't feel like they're authentic sometimes, like what I'm going through at the time. So anyways, I'll figure it out. But this week, we're going to talk about, mediumship in general, grief in general. So I kind of want to, for those who don't know, or those who, follow me on Instagram, my grandmother passed last week, and here's the thing, it was so crazy because for the last 2.5 years, she has been loss of memory. When I would go over there, she wouldn't really know who I was. She was kind of miserable, and she was not in and out of consciousness. Like I think she was doing things, but it was hard for me to go over because of a lot of reasons, but the people surrounding her, and it just was hard. It was hard because she has been almost in a way like a mother to me. She was my dad's mom, and I was actually very close to her. I was the only grandchild for a while, and then more came, but we just had a special bond, and she was also very much a gift giver, and she gave me lots of stuff all the time. And I think that's the reason why that might be my love language. She didn't do that to everybody, but I did find out that she did give lots of stuff to friends, because she knew how to make girl things. She knew how to make girl clothes. She'd made dresses. She made dolls. She made Barbie doll clothes. And most of the grandchildren were boys. And so I think everybody kind of thought that I was the favorite because her love language was giving gifts. And she just knew how to make girl things. And so some people took offense to that. I loved her not because she gave me gifts, but because she loved me unconditionally. I'm going to really make it through this podcast episode without crying, but she loved me regardless of, she just loved me, and I loved that about her. And so the last couple years, I would go home after visiting her, and because I remember 2 years ago, I went to go help take care of her, and she would cry at night and ask God to take her. And so I remember laying on the couch crying because it was so hard, and I just wanted her to get the proper care, and it was just kind of so anyways, I remember going home and just being so mad at my dad because my dad passed in 1999, and my grandpa, because my grandpa passed like 10 years before too, and I would be and all of her sons were over there, and I would be so mad because I did not understand why they couldn't come get her. And so last week they did, and I thought when it happened, I would be so happy and I would be so grateful, which I am, because I know she lives on. I do this for a living. I know her spirit lives on. But I miss her, even though I didn't really see her that much for 2 years, or she didn't know who I was. But there was a moment a couple weeks before she passed that I did go over there. Hospice had told us that it's getting pretty close. And just for a brief second, I knew she knew who I was. And so I miss that. So even though I haven't been able to see her for 2 years or be, she hasn't been that person for 2 years, I miss her. And it's so crazy because when she was alive and going through all that and I'd go over and see her, it wasn't like all the memories would pop up. But when she passed, it was like nonstop memories constantly. It was nonstop memories of all these little things that I haven't thought of for ages. And so it was crazy to me. And I was kind of frustrated because honestly, I haven't had, as a medium, I deal with death on a day-to-day basis. Every day I help people connect to their past loved ones. And you don't really feel, like I feel it, and I feel the empathy for them, and I feel the hurt, and I feel the pain. Because here's the thing, you guys, pain is pain. Pain is pain, and it can be excruciating, and it can be overwhelming, and it's so hard. And pain is something all of us have felt to some degree or another, or some sort of loss. And so, as a medium, I deal with that daily, and I do go home sometimes, and it's really, really hard, but I don't think I've ever dealt with a death while I was doing, in my family, while I was doing readings professionally. And so I was doing maybe readings on the side when her husband died. But I was still working a full-time job at this time too, and I was just doing readings on the side, and I wasn't something I did daily. It wasn't me doing something. It wasn't I didn't have the spiritual practice yet. And so when my grandfather died, and I would go see my grandma, I would feel him constantly. For some reason, I couldn't feel my grandma for a week, or I couldn't communicate with her for a week. And I was getting kind of frustrated. And I was like, here I am, this medium, and I can't connect to her. And it was the craziest thing because spirit, it's all about spirit's timing, right? And it's also very accurate too. Spirit showing me that, mediums can even have a hard time connecting to their family. So when people come to me for readings and say, I can't feel them, I don't understand, why aren't they around? I get it. I need to understand that. I need to have that empathy with them, and I need to understand that better. Because sometimes I'll be like, well, look for this sign, look for this sign. So I sat down and said, Carrie, you got to look for these signs. And I'm not kidding you. In the middle of doing Carrie Connects, a bird came and landed on my window and looked directly at me in the middle of Carrie Connects. And I knew that was my grandma. I knew she was there telling me and I have to be honest to you guys, my grandma was very kind of religious towards the end, not during her life. It's so crazy. And this was why a lot of times, but so she didn't really know what I did. She didn't really know that I was an actual psychic medium. She kind of thought I was more of a life coach. So, and it's not that I wasn't proud of it. It's just I knew she wouldn't understand it. There was somebody else in the family who did energy work, and my grandma thought it was kind of, when she talked about how it was, anyway, so it wasn't something we talked about. We talked about other things. So, anyways, it was like she came and said, I know what you do. I love you. And this is amazing. And then after that bird came in the window, it's like I felt her all week long. Every morning she would come and we would have conversations. I was even looking for a picture that the family needed for some of the displays for her funeral, and I couldn't find it. And I was like texting my kids, do you know where these are? Do you know where this is? Nobody. And then one morning when I was talking to her or feeling her there, I heard her say, look in the pictures of your dad. So I have this little stash of pictures with my dad that I didn't even think of because the particular picture I was looking for it was of my wedding dress. And because my grandma had made my wedding dress in my very first marriage. And I had gotten rid of all of my pictures from my first wedding. Didn't even think about the wedding dress pictures or anything like that. So she said, go look in your dad's pictures. And I kid you not, I went in, looked at my dad's pictures, and in one of the pictures was a picture of me in my wedding dress that my grandmother made with my dad. So we used that. And she has been around since then, and I've been able to feel her and talk to her, but it's still very hard. It's still very emotional. It's still very, and I think that sometimes it's a good reminder as a medium what people go through in the grief stage. I mean, I knew because I had loss. I'd lost my dad. I lost my I lost my other grandparents. I lost my other grandfather. But since I've been practicing since I've been doing this full time, I really haven't experienced it to this severity. And so, and I'm not saying it happens for a reason. I'm just saying that it's good for me it's a good reminder. It's a good reminder of what people are going through and what this is really, and what I do matters. What you do matters. What we all do matters. But sometimes I feel like I wonder, everybody does, right? So I thought it was interesting too that during this time I read this article that said in the Lakota tradition, a person who is grieving is considered the most wakened and the most holy. There's a sense that when someone is struck by the sudden lightning of loss, he or she stands on the threshold of the spirit world. The prayers of those who grieve are considered especially strong, and it is proper to ask them for their help. You might recall what it's like to be with someone who has grieved deeply. The person has no layer of protection, nothing left to defend. They are open. The mystery is looking out through that person's eyes. For the time being, he or she has accepted the reality of loss and has stopped clinging to the past or grasping to the future. In the groundless opening of sorrow, there is a wholeness of a presence and a deep natural wisdom. And I really, really felt that. I really feel like when people are in a sense of grief or this pain, they're completely open. They have nothing left to lose. They have nothing, like the little things don't matter anymore. The drama doesn't matter. What matters is how you live your life and the legacy that you live and how you, and I don't even want to say how you are remembered because it's really not anybody's judgment of how you're remembered. But I do know my grandma was an amazing person, and she makes me want to be a better person. She was a county treasurer in a time when it was a man-dominated world. She was so, in my eyes, she was so nice to everybody. And from what I've heard, other people say she was so nice to them. Now, there's been other people that say she was in my family that would agree, but that just goes to show that nobody's perfect, right? Nobody is perfect, and everybody, you just have a connection to some people, and everybody has different connections to different people. And so I just know that grief, I think through this thing that I've learned too, is grief is powerful. And when you are in grief, you are at your core. You are defenseless. You are almost, sometimes you can feel like it's rock bottom. Like you just know, and I guess that's the part where it says the person has no layer of protection, nothing left to defend. And I really felt that. I really felt that. And so how do you, saying goodbye? Lots of people come through in readings and say, I'm so glad you were there to say goodbye. And then other spirits come through and say, I know you weren't there to say goodbye, and that's okay. They know we tried. They know our circumstances. They know. So I know that my grandma knows that even though I wasn't there while she was passing, I know she knows my intention. And I know she knows that because of the circumstances, I did the best I could. And I just want you to know, if you're listening to this, they know you're doing the best you can. They know you grieve for them. They know you are trying to move forward. They know you are trying to find closure. And if you didn't get to say goodbye, then that's okay, because you don't have to find closure, because they're still there. Energy is infinite. Just because they don't have a body doesn't mean they don't exist. They will always and forever exist, just like you. They're not even at a different place. We have this concept that they're in a different place, and they're just at a different frequency. They're still around us, just at a different frequency. And I know some mediums are like, well, they need permission to come see us, or they need this or that. And I don't believe that. I believe that they're with us and they're at a different frequency. Now, I do believe, though, that sometimes they cannot interfere with our lives, because we have a blueprint that we want and that we wanted to experience, and it needs to play out a certain way, and they can't interfere with that. So we can ask them, and they can be with us, and they can protect us and love us and shield us and try and help us through it, but they can't change some of it. So, and I do know that sometimes, I think a couple times, it has been harder for me to communicate with some spirits during readings than others, but I don't know if that's because they were harder to communicate with, or it was because they couldn't interfere with the situation. And that's the thing about this. We never really know, right? We don't really know. Any medium can give you their opinion, but at the end of the day, nobody really knows. It can't be proven. It's not science. Some of it is science, but it's just like, it's everybody's different opinion of why things happen. And so I do, from the bottom of my heart, know that they still exist and they are with you. Sometimes they do feel farther away from you than normal, just like when my grandma first passed the first week. I didn't really feel her very much. But then the second, like within the second week, it was like amazing overflow. And what was she doing that week? Was I supposed to learn a lesson? Was I supposed to understand how grieving people felt so she couldn't show up? Or was she helping some other people in the family, and so her frequency wasn't as strong with me as other people? Because they can be with more than one person in the family, but she might have been like, 50% with my aunts and like 10% with me at the time because they needed me more. We will never know. But the important thing is she did end up showing up right when I needed her to, and when she could. And so the thing is I know now. I felt so guilty because part of that 2 years I was very seldom there because of the things that were going on because of the things that were happening, and because it was so hard for me to see her going through that and not being, and having her not remember who I was. But now I know she is good. She is in a good place. She's with my grandpa. She's with all her sons. She's with her mom. She's with her dad. And she is moving forward. So she wouldn't want me to be stuck and not move forward because of it. So that is, if you're having a hard time, and you're a hard time because you didn't get to say goodbye, or there's, or you did get to say goodbye, but there's still some closure, just remember, they want you. Don't feel guilty about moving forward. They want you to move forward. They want you to be happy. They don't want you to sit and be stuck and cry. It's okay to do that. It is okay to do that, because there is no time limit on grief and there is no book on how to do it. But at the end of the day, they want you to move forward and to be happy. That doesn't mean you forget them. That doesn't mean you don't remember the good times. It just means that their passing doesn't stop you from living. And so I think that this was a good lesson for me, and I wasn't grateful for it, and I can't really say that I am grateful for it, but I know one day I will be. And I kind of am grateful, because at the end of the day, I am glad she deserved better. She deserved to be, she's in a better place, and she is so happy. But here's the thing, you guys, just because she is a better place, and I've had a couple people say, well, she's in a better place, this was a good thing. True. but it didn't make it easier. It didn't make it easier. So, be really, it's so hard to know what to say to people when someone they love has passed. It really, really is. The best thing to do is say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. And let them talk about that person. Don't be afraid to bring that person up. Don't be afraid, because they love that memory of the person. And even I've been guilty of this too, because I've had, when people say it was better off, or they were miserable here, or they were sick, and I get that, I do. But it just doesn't make it any easier, because something triggers, something happens when they actually do pass, and it's just that thought of you not ever being able to talk to them again physically on this earth is something that just makes it so real. And the thing about it is it's harder. It does get, I can't really say it gets easier with time, because I don't think that it does. With some it might, with some it does. It just, the pain isn't as unbearing after time, I guess. It's still always there, and it's just the pain isn't so consuming. So, yeah, I didn't mean to make this about me, but honestly, this is my podcast, and you guys, this is what's going on in my life, and I just really didn't have time this week to look for, to research out a different topic, and so this is what you get. You get a part of a look into my personal life and what mediums go through when they lose a loved one. It's just because they're mediums doesn't mean it's all easy peasy lemon squeezy, because it doesn't mean that they get to chat with them every day still, and they still watch, because it is really, mediums, for them to connect to their own family, it is a little harder just because they are so close to it. And so they still go through the emotions and the pain. I had to cancel 2 days of readings, which was 6 readings, and I didn't have anywhere to reschedule them because I'm booked out for about 5 or 6 months, and so that was hard too. But you know what? It worked out. It was so crazy how it worked out, how openings showed up, and it was crazy. So anyways, I just want you guys to know that we all feel pain. It's a universal thing. Pain is pain, and it doesn't matter. Sometimes pain for me, my pain when my grandma passes could be a different pain for you when your grandma passes. Pain for when my dad passes could be different from when, there's no measurement. There's no measurement of who has more pain, because we all have different pain tolerances. So just know that grief is, when someone is in grief, they are at their most holy. They're at their core. They are so protected by spirits outside and angels, because they're ripped apart. So be kind. Be kind to people, because you never know what they're going through. So, with that, I also want you to remember too that you are so magical and you are so powerful, and words can lift people up or they can bring people down. So be careful about what you say to people, especially people who are grieving. And be okay when people accidentally say things that maybe aren't the greatest when you're grieving. Be open and have empathy. And I love you guys so much, and I will see you next week. If you liked this episode of Spunky Spirit, please hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode.